I'd like for you to take a moment to consider how connected you are to the world of video games. Are you the kind of person that plays a lot of games, colloquially known as a gamer? Maybe you've played a video game at some point, but it was years ago and it was only for a couple of minutes on your phone. Or maybe you've never touched a video game, you're just aware that they exist, you've heard the term somewhere. Regardless of where you fall on this scale of connectivity, I think we can all agree that video games have become a crucial part of our society, despite really only existing for less than a century. I mean, elementary schoolers argue about which Pokemon is the best, middle schoolers excitedly relate their most recent Fortnite win, high schoolers spend thousands of hours in Call of Duty. According to the website twitchtracker.com, in August of 2024, an average of 2.3 million people per day logged into the website twitch.tv to interact with their favorite streamers, as those streamers played through games like Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto, and League of Legends, to name a few. And I'll bet that regardless of how connected you feel to the world of video games, you've at least heard of one of the games I just mentioned. So with video games being such a large part of our society, it would make logical sense that they affect the way we communicate. But how? Well, I want to focus on two aspects that I think video games can affect: the ways in which people communicate with other people, as well as the ways in which people express themselves, how comfortable they feel with certain aspects of their identity. And of course, like any hot topic issue, there's going to be positive and negative sides, and I want to focus on these, however briefly it may be. So let's start with the positive side. How do video games positively affect the way people communicate with other people? Well, for that, we turn to the game World of Warcraft. Now, World of Warcraft is like if Dungeons and Dragons was played online with thousands of other players. It belongs to a genre called MMORPGs, massively multiplayer online role-playing games. In 2006, a group of researchers took chat logs from various MMOs and analyzed them. They divided the contents of these chat logs into two groups: task-oriented, which is along the lines of, hey, I need help taking down this boss, and socio-emotional, things like, how you doing? Great game. Researchers found that there were more socio-emotional chats than there were task-based ones. An interesting thing considering that a large majority of these games is task-based. They also found that the more experienced players were in the game, the more their chats were likely to be socio-emotional, as they were building up newer players. This is an interesting concept to me. The idea that the more you play these games, the better you get at communicating with other players. Players are coming to these games not only to play and to accomplish tasks, but also to have a place where they can talk and improve that talking ability. But multiplayer games don't get all the fun. There's also the games that you play by yourself, the single-player games. In 2019, a group of researchers conducted a study using the game Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Now, the main character in this game, Senua, struggles with psychosis, which is defined, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, as a mental disorder characterized by lack of or deficient contact with reality. Think schizophrenia. Now, the researchers found that when people played through this game, as opposed to just watching it, they were more likely to generate compassion towards those who struggled with psychosis. A video game showing players that it's okay to be open about certain elements of yourselves. Now, of course, video games haven't always been like that. For every game that takes a step forward, there's going to be a game that takes two steps back. And for that, we turn to another study, released in 2019. Researchers took a look at 100 games listed on the popular PC gaming platform Steam. They chose these games because they used keywords often associated with psychosis, words like insane, mad, crazy, psychotic, etc. The researchers found that the majority of these games used these terms to produce an image of mental health as something to be scared of. Mental illness is something that is dark, dangerous, a battle that only you can win, and if you're not careful, you'll harm those around you. And remember what I said earlier about MMOs being a place for players to learn how to communicate well? Well, not all MMOs are made alike. The game League of Legends has become quite infamous in the gaming community for its toxic player base. And when I say toxic, I don't mean in the sense of chemical warfare or toxic waste. I mean toxic in the sense of, well, telling your team to go get coronavirus because they made you lose the game. And for the record, this is one of the more tame chats I could find online. So video games can affect the way we communicate. They can show us better ways to communicate with other players, providing us an outlet when we need it, and they can show us that it's okay to be open about certain aspects of ourselves. But on the flip side, they can do the exact opposite. They can show us that it's something to be scared of, or they can show us that the best way to get what you want in life is to tell your opponents to go kill themselves if they win. And despite all that, I choose to play video games because of the stories that they allow me to tell and the ways in which they allow me to communicate those stories with others. We live in a wonderful time, and regardless of whether you consider yourself to be a gamer, have played a video game at some point in your life, or are just aware that video games exist, consider yourself lucky to be alive in a time when we have such a wide variety of video games and communication methods available to us. Thank you.